The August sun beat down like a furnace upon the vast Serengeti plains. Fine red dust lay thick upon Elias's old Land Rover, the vehicle of a wildlife conservationist who had dedicated his life to this land. Today, he was tracking the paw prints of a solitary lioness he had fitted with a tracking collar the previous rainy season. What worried him was that the GPS signal from the mother lion, whom he had affectionately named Imani, meaning faith, had remained unusually still for several hours near a particularly treacherous area. Elias had lived in the Serengeti for nearly 20 years, ever since he was a passionate young man fresh out of ecology studies. This land was not just his workplace, but his home, his silent confidant. He had witnessed torrential rainy seasons revive the barren plains, and prolonged droughts test the resilience of every living creature. Every roar of a lion, every footstep of an elephant herd, every graceful leap of a gazelle was etched into his heart with a profound love and respect for this wild world. Elias's daily work was not limited to tracking and studying animals. He also faced the harsh realities of conservation, the devastating impact of poaching, the increasing conflicts between humans and animals due to habitat encroachment, and sometimes, the indifference of those who did not understand the value of nature. He had witnessed heartbreaking scenes, animals injured or killed senselessly, and each time, his determination to protect the Serengeti grew stronger. Imani, the lioness Elias was tracking, was one of the individuals he cared about deeply. He had fitted her with a collar when she was a cub, watched her grow into a strong and responsible mother. The name, Imani, faith, was given to her because of her incredible perseverance and survival instinct. Her fur was the color of burnt sand, her amber eyes always held a resolute gaze, and her roar echoed across the plains, both a threat and a loving call to her cubs. In recent weeks, Elias had noticed a change in Imani's behavior. This year's dry season was harsher than any in recent memory, and familiar streams and waterholes were gradually drying up. Imani had to lead her cubs further in search of water, and Elias worried that the scarcity could put them in danger. This morning, when Imani's GPS signal suddenly stopped near the Black Rocks, a rugged area of jagged basalt boulders and deep ravines, Elias felt a sense of foreboding. He knew Imani was a cautious lioness. She would not stop in such a dangerous place without a very good reason. Elias's Land Rover slowly navigated through thorny bushes, the thick layer of red dust on the windshield limiting visibility. As he approached the Black Rocks area, the smell of dry earth and the stifling heat hit him. Then, as the vehicle climbed a small rise, he saw Imani. She stood motionless at the edge of a pit, her posture tense and desperate, a stark contrast to her usual majestic bearing. The pit appeared before Elias like a large scar on the face of the earth, its mouth riddled with cracks like a spiderweb, deep and menacing. Elias had heard local people talk about ancient, abandoned wells in this area, deadly traps that had inadvertently swallowed unfortunate animals. He had never imagined he would witness such a scene. As Elias approached the edge of the pit, he could hear more clearly the weak, frightened cries of lion cubs. They were pitifully small, their soft downy fur wet and matted. Their large eyes looked up at Imani and Elias, reflecting panic and pleading. One of them tried to cling to a small rock protruding from the wall of the pit, but its tiny paws slipped, and it fell back into the dark water. "Imani!" Elias called softly, his voice catching in his throat. He understood the pain and helplessness of a mother watching her offspring in danger. Imani turned her head, her wet eyes meeting his, seemingly begging for his help. Elias quickly contacted John on the radio. John was a reliable companion, a dedicated ranger always ready to assist. While waiting for John to arrive, Elias tried to remain calm and find a way to approach the pit safely. He knew that any hasty action could worsen the situation. He carefully observed the mouth of the pit and the surrounding terrain. The soil here was loose and prone to erosion, making direct access potentially fatal. He needed a more secure solution. He recalled the animal rescue skills he had been trained in, the emergency situations he had faced in the past. When John and the support team arrived, bringing extra ropes, a rope ladder, and a large net, Elias felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they assessed the situation and carefully planned a rescue. "We'll try to lower the rope ladder," John said, his voice calm but determined. "One person will go down and try to bring each cub up." Elias shook his head. "The walls of the pit are too slippery and steep, and the cubs are too weak to hold onto the ladder. We need a flatter surface for them to stand on." The idea of the tarpaulin flashed into Elias's mind. They would try to reinforce the mouth of the pit, creating a safe anchor point, and then slowly lower the tarpaulin into the pit. The work proceeded meticulously and slowly. They carefully moved large rocks and dry logs, arranging them along the edge of the pit to create a sturdy barrier. Sweat poured down their foreheads under the scorching sun, but no one dared to slacken their pace. Imani remained standing at the edge, watching their every move with eyes that held both anxiety and hope. Finally, after nearly an hour of hard work, they had created a sufficiently safe anchor point. Elias and John carefully tied the tarpaulin to the strong ropes, and slowly lowered it into the pit. When the tarpaulin touched the dark water, the lion cubs appeared frightened and moved away. "We need to be patient," Elias said softly. "They'll realize it's a safe place." And indeed, after a few hesitant moments, the most curious cub began to cautiously climb onto the tarpaulin. Then the others followed suit. Elias and John coordinated smoothly, slowly pulling the tarpaulin up, inch by inch. Each time one or two cubs were brought safely to the surface, Imani would approach, gently licking them, a maternal gesture of love and protection. But then disaster struck. As the tarpaulin neared the mouth of the pit, one of the cubs, the one with an injured hind leg, slipped and fell back into the water. Its weak, pained cry tore through the tense atmosphere. Imani roared in desperation, lunging towards the edge of the pit as if to jump in after her cub. "Stop, Imani!" Elias shouted, trying to restrain the mother lion. He knew that if Imani jumped in, the situation would become much more dangerous. Without a moment's hesitation, Elias secured a rope tightly around his waist. "Hold me tight," he ordered John and the others. With extreme caution, he slowly climbed down the wall of the pit, his eyes never leaving the small cub struggling in the dark water. Sharp rocks cut into his hands and legs, but Elias felt no pain. He was focused solely on the tiny creature in distress. Finally, he reached it, gently cradling it in his arms, trying to keep its small head above the water. "Pull up!" Elias yelled, his voice hoarse with strain. John and the others carefully pulled the rope up. When Elias and the cub were safely back on the surface, a collective sigh of relief filled the air. Imani immediately rushed over, nuzzling her cub, checking if it was all right. After giving first aid to the injured cub and ensuring that all six were safe and had drunk water, Elias and John began the task of filling the dangerous pit. They used large rocks and earth to fill it completely, turning it into a level part of the plain, no longer a threat to any living creature. As dusk fell, painting the Serengeti sky in ethereal shades of purple and orange, Imani and her cubs had fully recovered. They huddled together, licking and rubbing against each other as if to express their bond and gratitude. Imani approached Elias, nuzzling his hand once more, a gesture of deep trust and thanks. Elias gently stroked Imani's head, feeling the warmth and softness of her fur. He knew that in this harsh wild world, life and death were always close, and moments of rescue like this were incredibly precious. Watching the lion family gradually disappear into the twilight, Elias felt a profound and simple happiness. He knew that conservation was a never-ending battle, but every life saved, every forest protected was a small victory, a ray of hope in that struggle. As night fell, Elias and John packed their equipment and set off back to the station. The chirping of insects and the rustling of wind through the tall grass created a peaceful nocturnal symphony. Elias knew that the sigh of the earth from earlier in the day had given way to the gentle breath of life, and in his heart, the flame of passion for protecting nature continued to burn brightly. The story of the rescue of the lion cubs trapped in the dry well on the Serengeti Plains is not just an act of courage and compassion, it also carries a profound message about the connection between humans and the wild. It vividly portrays the fragility and value of every life, whether human or animal. The timely and determined action of Elias and the support of his colleagues demonstrated the power of empathy and solidarity in protecting the natural world. The story is also a reminder of humanity's responsibility to address and overcome the potential dangers, whether accidental or intentional, posed to the habitats of animal species. Furthermore, the moment Imani, the mother lion, showed trust and gratitude towards the person who had saved her cubs, transcended all species barriers, touched the hearts of readers, and affirmed that love and empathy are universal values capable of connecting all living beings on this planet. Ultimately, the story inspires hope and belief in our collective ability to protect the beauty and wondrous diversity of the natural world for future generations.